Hey, what's up everyone? Tony Weldon here for Digital Imagination Studios, DIS Effects. I hope you all are doing well and staying safe. I wanted to do a quick overview behind the scenes look at how I put together the text-to-speech short animation, which is in conjunction with the text-to-speech tutorial that I did for you guys. And this was all in response to your comments and emails. I appreciate them, so definitely keep them coming. Today I'll discuss some of the assets that were used, go over the lighting setup, and just the overall methodology behind the artistic intentions for this animation. So with that said, let's get started. So as you can see, the screen is blank. Let me show you exactly what my render size is here. So what I do is I use the 4K render size, but however I don't use all of the 4K. I don't render at 2160. I render at 3840 1500 because I know I like to use the black bars and I only want to render what I'm going to see. And then when I put it into After Effects will automatically add the black bars once I expand the settings to 2160. So hopefully that helped. Now usually I may not use the final render on some, because I've noticed that when I take a screenshot of the final render with the high sample size and the medium sample size, in addition to the preview sample size, sometimes there's just not that big of a difference. So I'll go with the lowest one possible, which is preview. So it makes the render a lot faster. But in this case, it looked pretty good. I wanted to make sure the depth of field was high, and I also wanted to make sure the sample size was high. So that's just for this one. Now with that said, once I got my screen set up, now I can go ahead and set up my animation within this real estate here. So let's go ahead and put some characters on the screen. Let me add the auxiliary light. So as you can remember, these two characters were used in the actual short animation. When I start to animate a short animation, I only use the characters first. I do not focus on the environment because I can get really lost in trying to create and making it look good, and it'll frustrate me, and then I'll walk away from it, go grab a cup of coffee. It could just get really crazy and long and drawn out. So what I'll do is I'll just focus on each task at a time. For example, with this particular scene, I chose an audio file from a movie called True to the Game. Let me show you here. This was a movie starring Columbus Short. I wanted this particular scene out of the movie. I thought it was pretty cool. So let me see if you guys remember this.
You and I have yet to be properly introduced. You thirsty?
Nah, I'm good.
But you sure are acting thirsty.
Okay, so you guys probably remember that. So what I did was I extracted that audio file by using Audacity. And then I put the audio file into a music DAW called Propellerhead's Reason, and that's how I was able to chop the audio up to basically single it out for each character. Once I did that, I went ahead and opened up just a blank new project, should I say, a new iClone project, and I just focused just on doing the facial animations only, just like I did in the text-to-speech tutorial that I did for you guys. That's exactly how I did it. I did the whole thing with just the face only. And I put those two characters side by side because I knew I wanted to have certain animations in their face, certain facial expressions, things of that nature. Once I was done with that, then I went ahead and said, okay, let me see exactly where they're going to be. Like, are they going to be in the street? Are they going to be at a club? Are they going to be in a meeting? I had to sit down and think about how I wanted this thing to play out. So I kind of wanted to stay similar to what the movie did, but just slightly different with my own little flavor on it. So I decided I wanted them to be in a kind of like a lounge area or like a little party, a little get together. So let me show you what I did there. I used a background element called New York City Living Room. And this I purchased from Dash Studio, and I can show you here. This was in Dash Studio. Actually, wow, it's 50% off now, so you guys may want to go ahead and check that one out. But I think this is a pretty good asset because all of the assets can definitely be extracted, and you can change the texture and you can place them in any of your other scenes. It's definitely reusable. But there's some pretty good assets in here. The guy who made this I thought was pretty awesome. So that's where I got that from. In addition to that, let's go back and I'll show you my cityscapes. If you see the cityscapes in the background, these are nothing but just planes. And I placed them near each window where I knew that the camera was going to be more visible. So that's all I did was put them on planes, and I put a self-illuminating, I made it self-illuminate, sorry about that. And so then once I did that, I had that scene taken care of. Now, in addition to that, I used some people in the background. Sorry about that. Let me get my people here. All right, so these people here that you see, if you notice, when I click on and off the eye to make them disappear and appear, they're just one animated file. Now, these people came from a crowd generating software called Anima. It's called AXYZ Anima. It is pretty cool software that you can use to basically create crowds for your environments. It's definitely awesome. All I did was basically just import this scene here, import the New York living room scene. I put it inside of Anima, and then I basically took Anima's generic characters that it come with, and I placed them in the scene strategically where I wanted them to be. And I put the animation that I needed on them for this particular scene. And then I exported them as FBX, brought them in through 3D Exchange, and then I put them in the scene. They were already clothed, so I'm not sure where these guys had their clothing from. I guess whoever created these characters, they already dressed their character. Actually, these are real characters, should I say. So they were already dressed. So the only clothing that I had to deal with was the characters that I already have. These two characters here. These are the only custom characters that I created with these two here, the main characters in this scene. The clothing that came from these characters were from character creators, generic clothing that comes with character creator. I know you guys remember these jeans. I think everybody had these jeans. These are some pretty cool jeans though. But all I did was just change the color to try to make it fit the scene as best I could. Now this jacket here, I believe I got this jacket from a 3D character I got online. I cannot remember, guys, I'm sorry, but I just extracted the jacket from. I think I had to take the character off it, delete the polygons and the vertices off from it just to get the jacket. So it's a little bit of work, but so I got that, and that's where all the clothing came from. Now I want to talk about the lighting. So let me take the auxiliary off so you can see what's going on here. So the only light that's being lit here is I did a self-illuminating setting on the shades here and the shade here. And then I did self-illuminating again on the cityscape, and I did a self-illuminating on the little lamp here. And it's also, the whole scene itself is being lit by the IBL, which came from the cityscape. I used the same image, but I only put it at 20%. So right now, as it stands, that's the only light that I used, guys. I did not use anything else but that for the basic lighting. Once I got the basic lighting set up the way I wanted it, now it was time for me to start to individualize or specify the lighting a little bit more focused. So let's start with the main character here. I did a standard 3-point lighting setup. So let me show you where his lighting is. I put a key light on him. I put a rim light on him, and I put a light behind him in addition to the rim light as well. So let me show you where these lights are positioned. So the key light here at the top, I made sure this light had a type of rectangle type, if you notice here, and I cranked up the width and the height to get a little bit of the glare in his eyes. And the rim light was coming from the window. I wanted to make sure some of the moonlight and the city light was coming in, so I also colored that light blue to get a little bit of the rim light around his body. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I did not know what I was doing with this backlight where the point light is right here. I was just messing around with it. I just said to myself, man, something is missing. And so I was moving this light around and around and around, and then all of a sudden when I got behind him, I said, man, this is pretty cool. So I lucked up on this, but I felt that once I did it, I realized why it looked good. It was because it separated him from the wall and the frame, and it gave a really good, nice depth. So that's why I did that. Let me turn the things off. Okay. So now he was lit. He was done. I was happy. So now let's go with the other character. So this character here, I did the same standard lighting setup, the same standard 3-point lighting setup. I gave him a fill light, I gave him a rim light, and I gave him a key light. And let me show you where these are set as well. Okay, so let me back up just a little bit so you can show you. Oops, sorry about that, guys. All right, so okay, as soon as I can find the other light. All right, here we go. So this key light here, as a matter of fact, let me turn off the indicators. All right, so you can see what's going on. So this key light here basically was meant to shine right across to him and be in conjunction with the camera. Good gracious, guys, I'm sorry about this. I'm trying to get this light in the scene. There we go. Okay, so I had this light set up with the rectangle as well to get some of the glare in the eyes, and I knew the camera was going to be on this side, so I wanted to have his light to be shined more from that perspective. I used a fill light to fill in the shadows that the key light was going to create, and I wanted it to be on the side here. I used a rim light to have some of the edge light on his shoulders, the back of the chair, and I wanted to represent two things: the edge for the character, but also the blue color represents the light coming in from the cityscape. And that's what I did there. Now let's talk about the characters outside of him. So the crowd, let's go here. So this point light over here, I wanted to light these two characters up here, but I wanted to just basically focus on giving them some rim light, and so that you could see their movement to show that they are animated. I didn't want the light to be so scattered, so I actually put a rectangle on it so that it would be more direction. If you notice how the indicator here is just shining down, so I just wanted the light just to kind of shine right in this area. I wanted a little bit of light to be on the curtains. I wanted the light to represent this lamp here, the illumination of this lamp here, and just light them up just a little bit. I didn't want them to be the focal point, so that's what I did for that one. Then these guys here in the back, if you notice, you can't really see them that well, so I did the same thing too. So what I did was I took a light and I placed it here, but again, when I use the rectangle, if you notice, if I turn the rectangle off, it'll light up the whole wall and light up everything. However, that might look good to some people though, but I wasn't looking for that particular look at that time, so I kept it a rectangle so it'll be more focused, and I turned it towards them so it just only gives the rim light and shows that they're there talking, and I knew the ambiance light was going to cover the back and everything like that. So that's how I got that. And then on the third light, which was around here, These guys over here, same thing. I put the point light at the bottom, change the type to a rectangle so it just focuses up. I wanted them to be lit up lightly, not too much light. I just wanted to have a little bit. And then what I did was I added an actual spotlight to give them some rim light and a little more depth, and I wanted to shine onto the wall. And that's what I did. That's exactly what I did, guys. I did not do anything else. That's all I did for this particular scene. Now I wanted to just kind of go over really quick the animation, my methodology for the animation. I did not want a lot of movement. I wanted each character to have their own kind of almost personality. So this guy here, he's supposed to be the calm and cool collect guy. He's not supposed to move much because he knows what he's doing. He knows where he is in his life. He just has his stuff together. This guy right here is trying to be a part of what this guy is trying to do. And so he's going to be a little more jumpy. His animations might be a little bit more exaggerated. But at the same time, my opinion, when you're trying to go for realism or using realistic intended characters, I personally don't feel they need to do a lot of movement or a lot of animation. Stylized characters, I believe, can get away with a whole lot of animating and movements because they're stylized. So let me show you something really quick. So what I did with the cameras, I used a wide angle camera for my main character here, and I also created a close-up camera to emphasize emotion, whatever the seriousness is, whatever's going on, I wanted to emphasize it. That's why I used the close-up camera. Same thing for the other character. I used a wide angle, and I also used a close-up as well. But so to switch between all of these, to get I used a switcher, and if you see it here, I just placed a switcher where I wanted the actual scene to switch based on the audio file. So I just went through it, looked at it, and I just kind of worked it out. This here, guys, is purely artistic. It's purely what you feel or how you feel you want your cameras to tell the story. So it doesn't necessarily mean you'll do it the exact same way, but you'll definitely do it the way you feel. And that's pretty awesome when you do it that way. That's how we get unique things. So let me just show you something really quick with regards to the animation and how I just want to emphasize or do animation based on emphasizing what's going on in the scene. So if you notice when he talks here,
You and I have yet to be properly introduced. You thirsty? No.
so if you notice when he said you're thirsty, he had offered him the beer. And the guy said no, but then
I'm good, but you sure are acting thirsty.
I wanted the close-up camera to come in to kind of like emphasize the sarcasm, because in the audio file he was being sarcastic. So right before the sarcasm came, I wanted to like offer him a beer as if he was intended to offer him a beer to say, hey, are you thirsty? But he was really just being sarcastic. So lastly, let me show you the visuals. I used the texture from the cityscape image as the IBL, and I also used the GI direct lighting as well. I set the strength to 20%. I used the HDR effect. I only put about 3% for the bloom scale, but it did give me that haze on the lights that I like. I used the ambient occlusion. I cranked the ambient occlusion up to about 100 in this particular case, but however, you got to be careful when you crank this up because it could make some dark areas in your scene look a little, it can become unflattering. So definitely play around with that. In addition to that, I used the overall shadow. I cranked it up to the 4096. I used a suppressed shadow flicker. I didn't use the tune shader for this. I used a lookup table called the Final Flight. I would suggest playing around with these lookup tables. They are awesome. They have a hierarchical kind of scheme to them where if you move them around within the hierarchy, they produce different results. In this case, I only chose one in addition to the default static noise, but I chose one. I could have cranked this up to about maybe 80 and got a little more of the deep blues and the deep oranges from the lights, but for some reason I went ahead and stuck with the 30. But again, I would definitely just take a look at these, dig deep into them, Try to maneuver them around and get different results, and you'll definitely be happy. I put these at the end of my scene, meaning when I'm finished creating my scene, that's when I start running through these here. And last but not least, I chose the global illumination, which helped to bring a little bit of the ambiance and the background color and light. As you can see, when I turn it off, it gets a little dark, but I wanted to light up the scene just a little bit more, so I turned them on. And that's it. That's all that is to this scene, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for taking the time out to listen and watch and just hanging out with me here. Let's do this again. Until next time.